my administration will focus on ending the absolutely horrific practice of human trafficking. And I am prepared to bring the full force and weight of our government to the federal and at the federal level and the other highest levels, whatever we can do in order to solve this horrific problem.
If that video clip or that sound seemed uncharacteristic for Trump because he didn't seem excited, he's just reading off a paper, it seemed like he didn't really care about the issue of human trafficking, you'd be right in your judgments because he has just cut funding for victims of trafficking. Okay, so this actually started last year. There was a notice from the Justice Department in regard to grants and money and funding that's given to victims of human trafficking. And it specifically said direct representation on vacatur or expungement matters through court filings or through other litigation services is not allowable or an allowable cost under this cooperative agreement or with fiscal year 2018 funds. So what does this mean? When people are trafficked, they're forced into things like prostitution. And oftentimes they will get arrested on prosecution charges, and then they end up having a criminal record, but they're victims. So this federal funding was meant to give them the resources necessary to clear their record, because again, they're not criminals, they're victims, they've been trafficked. And Trump, who claims he's doing what he's doing at the border to protect migrant children from trafficking, doesn't actually care about trafficking. Again, he just cut funding to help these victims.
First of all, it's helping victims, so what does he care? Second of all, I wonder if he has any friends, lifelong friends who were child traffickers. Oh right, Jeffrey Epstein. I wonder if he partied with him over and over again. Oh right, he did. And so I don't know that Trump did anything that Epstein did and why Epstein's been arrested, but it is curious that his Secretary of Labor was the guy who let Epstein off in the first place about a decade ago and randomly becomes the labor secretary. And now Donald Trump cuts money to illegal sex trafficking to combat it. Things that make you go,
So this goes against the actions of Congress because according to foreign policy, while Congress has increased funding to victim services, Trump's Justice Department has eliminated grants that used to fund vacatures, expungements, and sealing the criminal records. Many victims of trafficking, as I mentioned, are forced to commit crimes related to their trafficking situation, like prostitution. Because of that, clearing records is crucial to a trafficking victim's recovery. Because think about it, if you have a criminal record, you are unlikely to get a job. You're unlikely to be able to do things people with clean records get to do. And to be victimized for the rest of your life after you've already been victimized by someone who is trafficking you is terrible, which is why we had a system in place and resources in place to help these people out. And Trump has done away with that.
The same administration that shut the door on abused women and tried to roll back a domestic abuse as a legal justification for seeking asylum. Obviously, they do not care about the well-being of migrants. They do not care about the well-being of people coming over the border. I mean, every part of this rhetoric is just virtue signaling and trying to cover their back end. I don't know if I can curse on this show, but just in an effort to make it seem like they're not being completely racist when they obviously are. It's just white nativist immigration policies that they're reinforcing.
So let's note for the record that the alt-right was obsessed with pedophile rings and sex trafficking and how those secret Democrats were doing it. And look at that, it turns out the guys who's cutting funding for sex trafficking is your Donald Trump, who was friends with the notorious Jeffrey Epstein. Funny how that turned around. I mean, Republican projection, that would never happen, right? And finally, look, this is one of those things that Trump has done that is so reprehensible that he might have to walk it back. It doesn't happen very often, but it did happen, for example, with the Special Olympics. He cut all the funding for the Special Olympics, and then people rained down hate on him, including probably his donors. And so he was like, okay, fine. And then he put it back in, and then he did what? he bragged about how he restored the funding.
It's amazing.
And so if he walks this one back, I guarantee you that he'll be like, I'm the one who put in the money for this to help the victims of sex trafficking. No, you're the one who took it out in the first place. And right now, by the way, he hasn't put it back at all.
I predict that he will not walk this back because unfortunately, this story broke at the same time that we had 2 mass shootings in the country. That's dominating the news cycle. This is what Trump does. He floods the news cycle with chaos. And it's hard to pay attention to every single story and devote yourself to doing something about every single story. And it really is a tragedy because victims will continue to be victimized under what Trump is doing right now.
What is inarguable is, compared to the $2 trillion in tax cuts for the rich, this is a minuscule amount. And it shows their priorities. So if you thought their priorities were helping victims of crime when Donald Trump said, I alone can protect you, well, you were mistaken. No, he has shown in his actions, he has that as a very, very low priority, so bad, so low that he took money away from it. His #1 priority by his actions was tax cuts for the rich. Thanks for watching this free clip of the Young Turks. Don't forget to become a TYT member today. For more exclusive content, join now at tyt.com/join.